Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for clicking on this Rank the Movies video. I am Martin Prevost, and here we go. So this week, I've done a franchise month recently. I talked about kids' movies. This year, I've covered Nicolas Cage, good or bad, and now I'm going to move on to some, bad movies. Movies that are so bad they're good, movies that are just plain bad, and one movie I really, truly hate. But to start with, I had to pick a movie to start with. I only got 4 weeks this month, so if I'm doing a movie I really hate, I'm going to do a movie a lot of people say is bad that I've never seen before. I'm going to do a movie that was so bad, it got a sequel. And I'm doing this movie, which also technically has a sequel. It has a second movie. I don't think it is in any way, shape, or form a direct sequel. I didn't watch the sequel. I only watched the original, and that is Dungeons and Dragons from 2000. This movie stars Jeremy Irons, Marlon Wayans, and Thora Birch are the only actors in it that really have any name value. There's some you recognize. There's one of the pirates from Pirates of the Caribbean. From the two, the one that had the wood eye and his friend. One of them's in this movie. Richard O'Brien is in it as well from Rocky Horror Picture Show. He's in it for a few minutes. You also have Andy Barclay from Child's Play 3 is the main character. But none of these actors are... Marlon Brando, Jeremy Irons, that's where the casting budget went on this movie. Jeremy Irons has come out and said he did this movie because he bought a castle and he had to pay for it. And this is the movie he did to pay for it. So it is based on the RPG of the same name, Dungeons and Dragons. So it's about a group of people who go on a quest. I literally just finished watching this movie before I did this. And, I got a lot of swirling thoughts in my head regarding what I just watched. So, it takes place in a kingdom, obviously. You have kingdoms and villages. It takes place in a kingdom. And you have your evil villain, played by Jeremy Irons. I'm not going to use character names because I don't remember them. I even had the subtitles on. I don't remember them. Jeremy Irons is trying to figure out how to control dragons, because the Empress of this land can control a dragon, can control gold dragons, which I don't think is ever specified that it's gold dragons. I think you're just supposed to assume it's gold dragons, and it's later verified that it's gold dragons, but never through dialogue. I don't think it's ever said through dialogue that it's gold dragons, but he's trying to gain the power over red dragons, or at least a red dragon. Or multiple. He used green, which makes no sense, because it wasn't a green dragon he was trying to control. Maybe if it was a green dragon, it would have worked. Anyways, his spell fails and the dragon's blood hits water and it lights the water on fire. Which seems like it should be a plot point, but it pretty much isn't. Two thieves, played by Andy Barclay from Child's Play 3 and Marlon Wayans, watch the fire and decide to go rob the mage school because... that's what you do when the lake is on fire, I guess. You also find out that Jeremy Irons has convinced a council of mages, because mages are superior to our commoners, that the Empress should not be allowed to wield her scepter because she wants to bring equality to the people, have the mages and the commoners live on the same level. So that's bad, because then the mages won't be the top dogs anymore. So he wants to force her to give it up, but she doesn't want to. But she has a mage on her side who says, well, you can give him your scepter, and then we can get you a scepter that controls the red dragons. Once you have that scepter, then you still have dragons, and you can give them their scepter. Bada bing, bada boom, everybody wins. So he is reviewing it. Jeremy Irons sends his lackey to go recover the scroll that tells him where the thing is, the scepter for the red dragons, and his lackey goes off. But the two thieves are robbing the mage school, And the dude is working with his female apprentice to decipher the map, but they can't. And all of a sudden there's a noise, and she goes to find the thieves. And the dude shows up who works for Jeremy Irons, and he kills the mage, but not before he gets the map to the girl. And then she uses one of the 4 times she uses magic. She is a mage. She is a magic user. She uses it 4 times. She goes, oh, later on in the movie she goes, oh, you don't need spells? You're not even using spells. You use one magic to tell. You use a magic rope on the 2 thieves at the beginning of the movie. You use a teleportation spell, and then you use 2 other spells, but you need magic dust for them. One of these spells, you had nothing when you casted it the first time. So I'm a little annoyed with their mage of this group, because, anyways. So the mage escapes with the 2 thieves, and they meet a dwarf in a pile of garbage, and then go down a sewer chute with the dwarf. And then the dwarf is working with them. There's apparently a deleted scene I didn't watch that has the dwarf introducing himself and agreeing to band together with them and hear what they're doing, which would lead into the next scene. They apparently decided to cut that scene and just go, he's part of the team now. That's great. This dwarf doesn't even need to be in this movie. He doesn't do anything. He serves no purpose. It's just there to make it a band, like to make it the group feel of like the RPG, where you get a bunch of people together and go on a quest. That was the idea of adding the dwarf, is to add a 4th person onto this quest, and later an elf gets added in, who also is basically pointless. But yeah, so you gain your pointless dwarf. They then go to a bar, where the main thief, Andy Barclay from Child's Play 3, deciphers the map by using a spell, I guess, his dad used when he used blueprints that sucks him into the map. The mage then follows, and instead of going to do what they're doing in the map, or intercutting between that and what's happening outside, we're going to hang around with our pointless dwarf and Marlon Wayans as he goes hits on our future elf companion, and Jeremy Irons Heavy shows up to try to get the scroll. We then leave the bar quickly, and they come out of the scroll. And they just tell you the exposition they got from the scroll. Something that seemed very interesting and might have been fun to watch. We just get told that this is how you need to get the Dragon's Eye, and it's being held at this thieves guild in this other town. So you must now venture there. Quest! And then they meet Richard O'Bannon, Brian, who is the head of the Thieves Guild, who has set up a maze because he has been unable to steal this item, and he's sending people through this maze to try to steal it. And of course, our Child's Play 3 actor steals it, and then another fight shows up because Jeremy Irons Heavy shows back up, and they're fisticuffing with the thieves, and the mage female gets captured and taken away. And they go to rescue her and Marlon Wayans. This is the only thing. I watched this movie once when it first came out in the year 2000. The only thing I remember from this movie is Marlon Wayans stepping on a rug and it turning into quicksand. That's it. That's all I got. I actually thought he died. I actually thought this is where he died. Spoiler alert, he dies. This is actually where I thought he died. I thought he died in the quicksand, but he doesn't. He gets pulled out and gets into a fight with the Heavy. And this is why he dies. He dies fighting the Heavy, sacrificing himself for... I don't know why. He was gonna die anyways. I know he had the map, and he chucks the map, and then he gets killed. But, like, literally his friend, Andy Barclay from Child's Play 3, drops to his knees, screams, "Yeah!" Never, like, picks up the map. I'm pretty sure the map just disappears from this moment on. Somebody's memorized the map, so I don't know why we needed to grab the map, because as far as I know, nobody touches the damn map. Mage Lady gets the bag of dust and casts the only other 2 fucking spells she knows, apparently, and they escape, meeting up with the elf and the dwarf, and they band together to go get the scepter. They do, and then there's a big dragon battle, and this movie's got really shitty CGI. Like, really shitty CGI. Like, it might have looked good on VHS in the year 2000. Blu-ray, 2022, it does not look good. It does not look good. It looks bad. It looks very bad. It looks shitty bad. All of it. Like, there's some practical stuff that they did here, like a talking skeleton, and the ogres are all practical. Like, they're all guys in costumes, or they're puppets, or whatever. They look really good. The practical stuff actually looks really good. Unfortunately, most of what they did was CG, so most of it looks like shit. Like, it's just bad. And, like, they love it doing CG spinny establishing shots. Like, they saw a couple, like, Spawn and a couple other movies do them, and they went, man, let's take the first 20 minutes of this movie and do a spinny CG establishing shot every 3 damn minutes. Because that'll look cool. We should have that instead of story. Because we kept cutting the story elements out of our movie because pacing? Some of the stuff they said that I read was they cut this stuff because they didn't have an effects budget. Now, the sewer scene where the dwarf actually is introduced and decides to join them probably didn't have any CGI in it. Or a very minimal amount of CGI. The stuff with the map might have had it. They said there was a wraith, so that might have cost some money to have the wraith. I just found it funny that they come out of the map and they're going, well, we have to go here and go here. Like, why were we not shown that? Why were we not with them in the map? That seemed way more interesting than watching Marlon Wayans hit on a girl in a bar. But that's what we got to watch. But yeah, Jeremy Irons is eventually defeated, and the world is happy again, and you find out Marlon Wayans probably isn't dead because Andy Barclay from Child's Play has magic, and his magic powers resurrected him somehow. And they have a stone that's glowing red, and when they all touch it, it's like, oh, they're gonna go on a quest. It's a setup for the sequel. The quest, alright, whatever, fuck it, it's the next quest. That's fine. They touch it, and they turn into sparkly dust and fly away. Like, they don't go questing. They don't go, we have to go to, the world's end. Just because I said Pirates of the Caribbean earlier. Fuck it, we have to save him by going to the world's end. And then they quest to the world's end. No, they turn into sparkly dust and fly away. Also, Andy Barclay from Child's Play and the female mage have a thing going on. They're into each other, even though he's a commoner and she's magic. This movie, this movie is painful. It was an hour and 45 minutes of pain. It really was. I got to a point where the dragons, we now have gold dragons and red dragons fighting, which should be really cool, except they're all shitty CGI, so it's just painful. And I go, well, there can't be more than 15 minutes left of this movie. Alright, we just gotta finish off Jeremy Irons, and then our conclusion, and we're done. I clicked my display on my Blu-ray, and they told me there were 17 minutes left. And I felt really bad, because I was wrong, and it was more, and somehow those 2 minutes made me feel real depressed. Even though those are probably credits, they made me feel real depressed, because I had to spend 2 extra minutes watching this movie. Yeah, this is a bad movie through and through. I was hoping I would revisit it and find out it was one of those movies so bad that it's good, but it's not. It has nothing making it redeemable enough to make it so bad it's good. It kind of just sits at, this movie is bad. This movie is trash. It shouldn't have existed. I don't know why they made it. I get it. Dungeons & Dragons is really popular, and this should have been a really easy script to write. All you need is a couple of people who have played Dungeons & Dragons, just have them write a movie based on their favorite adventure they've ever gone on. Bada bing, bada bang, bada boom, you're done. Or have it be like a trippy, like Lego movie type thing where you find out at the beginning of the movie or halfway through the movie or at the end of the movie that you're seeing an actual, like, Dungeons & Dragons campaign going on, where all of a sudden you come out and you have the actors now dressed normally, sitting around a table rolling dice to determine what's happening, because you can have wacky-ass shit happen, like, when they critically miss, all of a sudden, like, their sword just flips out of their hand for no apparent reason, and then, oh, they're actually playing Dungeons & Dragons. These would have been better concepts for a movie. These would have been more thought-out concepts and more entertaining concepts. We didn't need it just to be a stereotypical sci-fi adventure movie. I guess fantasy. I guess it was fantasy adventure. It's not really sci-fi adventure. It would have been fantasy adventure movie. You know, sorcerers and swords is another way these types of movies are described. I don't think it needed to be that. I think you could have taken the Dungeons and Dragons IP and done something way cooler, way more interesting, and got a lot more eyes on it. But yeah, I know the director is a first-time director, and they were really young when they did it, only because they somehow, at the age of 19, bought the rights to Dungeons and Dragons. For some reason, every director they offered up, they were told no to until they had to direct, which is weird because if the IMDb is correct, one of these names is Francis Ford Coppola, and I'm sure he could have at least made an entertaining movie. It might not have been good, but man, you might not feel like you're wasting an hour and 47 minutes. Gotta remember those 2 extra minutes. But yeah, like, this is one of those movies, watch this review so you never have to watch this movie. If somebody goes, hey, let's watch Dungeons and Dragons, you can be like, fuck you! That movie has poor CGI, a bad story, it's missing seeds, the acting is fairly weak. I mean, Marlon Wayans seems like he's trying to bring his A game to this movie. And I'm sure a bunch of the other, like, people who I didn't really recognize, and even when I looked them up, I didn't know what they were doing. I'm sure they were bringing their A game to this movie as well. But, Jeremy Irons was not bringing his A game to this movie. Jeremy Irons went, well, the check cleared. That man overacts almost every scene. He's like, I don't care. I know what I'm making. He is. It's almost entertaining just for Jeremy Irons, but he is in this movie so little, probably because he costs so much, that they could only have him or Marlon Wayans in any given scene, hence why Marlon Wayans dies, so they can bring... Because basically, Jeremy Irons is introduced in the beginning of the movie, then Marlon Wayans is introduced, and Jeremy Irons basically drops off of this movie, and then Marlon Wayans dies, and Jeremy Irons comes back. So I'm pretty sure they could only afford one of them at a time. So yeah. Don't watch this movie. Like I said, I've never seen the sequel, Wrath of the Dragon God. I don't even know if it's an actual, like, continuation of the first movie. I honestly have no idea. I don't think it is. I feel like it's not. I feel like it's its own thing. You can obviously get them both in a Blu-ray 2-pack, but I highly suggest not getting either. They're bad movies. Again, they're not even the good kind of bad. They're the bad kind of bad. They're just not fun. They're not entertaining. And yeah, don't waste your time with them. I was hoping to start off with the good kind of bad. I picked wrong. So yeah, hopefully next week will go better. It's a movie I haven't watched in a couple of years. I mean, this has been 22 years since the last time I watched it, because I watched it when it came out in 2000. When it came out on VHS, that might have been 2001, depending on when the release date actually was of the VHS issue. But a movie I haven't... Next week, I'm going to be covering a movie I haven't watched since maybe 2013, 2014, and its sequel. The sequel I've never seen before. I'm going to be covering Crank and Crank 2 High Voltage. So it's going to be a Jason Statham double feature. Crank, I feel like, is going to be way more of what I wanted, which is the good kind of bad. And Crank 2, I think, is just going to be more of that. We'll find out. We'll find out. Check back in next week to hear what I got to say about the Crank movies. Don't watch Dungeons and Dragons. Like this video, comment on this video, subscribe to the channel to make sure you don't miss any content. Go out and play some Dungeons and Dragons. That's a great game to sit around with friends and just roll some dice. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. But the movie isn't fun. The physical game is fun. Alright, I will see you next time. Have a great one. Have a great rest of your week.